And we have this off-duty pilot who is facing dozens of charges, included among them 83 counts of attempted murder. Authorities say that Joseph Emerson tried to take control of a plane, disabling the engines on an Alaska Airlines flight that was moving from Washington State to San Francisco last night, then had to be diverted from there. The flight crew was able to secure the plane, make an emergency landing in Portland. The FBI and the Port of Portland police are investigating all of this. And we want to talk about all of this right now with Les Abend, who's a retired Boeing 777 captain, co-host of Candid Cockpit, which is a podcast for passengers. And boy, imagine passengers less having to deal with this. But can you explain how something like this happens? This is a guy who's off duty, right? Is a pilot, but he's not a pilot on this flight. Obviously, he's off duty. And is it normal for them to sit in the cockpit in that jump seat behind the pilot and the co-pilot? Is that how it usually works?
It does. It's very dismaying, this whole situation, to me. It reminds me of Federal Express way back when on a DC-10 going into Memphis, where one of their employees who was a pilot that was being terminated ended up having a pretty nasty fight with the crew. And in answer to your question, Connor, the bottom line is this is one way of getting point A to point B for commuting pilots going home. It's a privilege that we have because we are authorized through security to be in that cockpit. So he may have been a pilot just trying to get home. He may have been a deadheading pilot. There is a national database that is available, at least in the United States, that allows pilots this privilege to ride on other airlines. Now, this accordingly is or according to the news, is a Alaska Airline pilot who traveled on Horizon, which is a subsidiary of Alaska Airlines. So essentially, it would have been his airline. Where it went from there, only the guys in the cockpit would know that situation specifically.
I want to throw to a piece of a clip that came off the voice recorder inside the cockpit from the flight recorder, and just listen to what the conversation was, or just a short piece of it, and then we can come back and talk about that. Here it is.
We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit, and he doesn't sound like he's causing any issue in the back right now. I think he's subdued. Other than that, yeah, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and park.
So they got him. Obviously, law enforcement came on, did make the arrest, and he's facing 80+ attempted murder charges. You ever see? I'm assuming the answer is no to the first part. You ever see anything like this at all? But if that was you, how would you have handled that situation in the actual cockpit?
Yeah, I mean, with over 4 decades of flying experience with professional pilots, I've fortunately never experienced something like that. How would I have handled it? Exactly as that crew probably did. We don't know for sure, but they deserve a commendation, understanding that something wasn't quite right. This guy was screened, nationally was screened. It would have been hard, but there might have been some clues that this individual was having some problems in his head, because apparently he reached for what we call the fire control switches, the fire handles, which basically shut off all sorts of, essentially fuel to the, among other things, to the engines.
Right. So from now on, I mean, is it fair to assume that, we're always reactionary, for better or worse, in these situations, that, if there's a pilot flying on a plane, they're going to have to sit in a seat if it's open, like sometimes happens, that none of this, I guess the jump seat will be off limits, I would assume, will be the reaction. Is that fair? Or?
Well, there's certainly going to be some sort of call to action on this, but this is highly unusual, highly unusual. And the public should not be frantic about this situation, happening in the future. This is very untypical.
Yeah, boy, what a crazy story for the people who are on. But to your point, the crew handled it seems like, exactly the right way. Les, thank you for your expertise and experience on all this. It's good to talk to you. We actually have an update.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.